Keeping our hearts open, let's listen to these words on gratitude. Gratitude is a way of returning energy for energy received. Only a thief takes without paying for what he gets. And one who accepts a kindness without returning gratitude, as though the kindness were his by right, demeans both the giver and himself. He demeans the giver because by ingratitude, he implies that the kindness was inspired by selfish motives. And he demeans himself because by giving nothing in return, he breaks the cycle of creativity, without which prosperity's flow, both materially and spiritually, is blocked. Accept nothing inwardly for yourself, but offer everything to God. Don't let yourself be bought by others' kindnesses. Be grateful to them above all in your soul by blessing or praying for them. Give gratitude first of all to God, from whom alone all blessings truly come. Let's repeat the affirmation first loudly. I give thanks to the giver behind each gift. And to the one giver behind all that I receive. My gratitude rises with devotion's incense. To the throne of omnipresence. And then more quietly, I give thanks to the giver behind each gift. And to the one giver behind all that I receive. My gratitude rises with devotion's incense. To the throne of omnipresence.
Home is a green hill, home is a wind, blowing betrayal far, far away. Home is the knowledge heaven is green summer fade and winter draw near. My Lord, in your presence I live without fear. Through tempests, through snows, through turbulent tides, the touch of your hand is my strength and my guide. I ask for no riches that death can destroy. I crave only thee, your love and your joy. I ask for no riches that death can destroy. I crave only thee, your love and your joy. The dancers will pass, the singing must end. I welcome the darkness with you for my friend.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. In the audio recording, if you weren't here this morning, that we listened to, there's a part in the beginning of that recording where Swamiji talks about visiting Anandamoy Ma, the great saint in India, years ago. And he shares how when he was visiting her, she gifted him this shawl that she had been wearing for the last 5 years, and she wanted him to know that. And his heart was just so touched and full of love and gratitude from this blessing that he was feeling from Anandamoy Ma, that he was just so full with it that he couldn't contain it, so he had to express it somehow. And so he, of course, thanked Anandamoy Ma, and he shares how he was astonished by her reply, which was, would you thank your own mother? And he said, why, yes, of course I would. And there was a few minutes, he says, afterwards, of fun back and forth of the social customs of India and the East and the social customs of America and the West. And this story just made me want to find out a little bit more and explore a little bit more of why is it beyond the social custom that we do feel this, we feel impelled to share the love we feel, the appreciation we feel. If we really do sincerely feel that within us, it just naturally comes out of us at times. And it seems that this is exactly why. It's because it's our heart's very own nature. It's our very own nature to want to share the love we feel, want to share the blessings we feel. And if we look at this example of Swami and Anandamoy Ma, he didn't thank Anandamoy Ma for her sake, but he explains how he was just so full that he couldn't contain it, and it just naturally had to express itself in, yeah, of course, feeling, but also in this case, in words as well. And the amazing thing that I feel is that Swamiji's experience, his capacity to love, is no different than every single one of our capacities. It may be more of a potential in our case at the moment, but ultimately, every single one of us has the same capacity to expand our hearts and open ourselves up to, one, receive more divine blessings, but then also to then share those blessings. And it's just very, very, I felt it and found it to be very inspiring to know that that is every single one of our destinies, is to be able to have the capacity to love that much and then to feel it and also to share it. And we all have that potential within us and are actively, when we put out those joyful efforts to do that, we do feel those blessings in return. There's many, over the last couple of years, many studies coming up about the science behind meditation and its effects on the brain, and all of the ways of meditation and meditative practices are changing the brain and showing how the brain is so much more changeable and malleable. And I get the sense that the same is also true with our hearts, either physically or energetically. Meditation and these practices also have the same effect. Our hearts are just as malleable as our brains. We have what feels like this wet clay as our hearts, that we are the potters, and we can continuously, joyfully, with the help of Divine Mother, with the guidance of the teachers that we have, to every time we put out another step forward of kindness or of joy or of love, of thanks, of sharing, we are widening that cup of our heart and also deepening it so that we are gaining the capacity to receive more divine blessings by doing so, and also then in turn naturally sharing that, because again, it really seems as though it's our very own nature to do so. And again, it's not when we share those blessings that it's for anybody else's sake, but it's our very own direct experience that teaches us that we feel better when we love more, when we give more of ourselves to the situations that we find ourselves in. And when we do that, it's tough not to feel that everything that comes to us is a divine blessing from Divine Mother. A few months back at the beginning of the year, Shanti sold me her car, and it was with the caveat that she didn't want to hear anything bad that happened to it or any minor problems that came, even minor problems. She said, just don't tell me about it, because somehow she would feel responsible or like she was the cause or something. So Shanti, cover your ears, please. This is, the details are actually quite minor, but the experience that I had ties in with this, I feel, personally at least. So I had recently went to the mechanic for just routine oil change stuff. And as sometimes happens when you do that, they actually find 2, 3, 4, 5 other things that need to be done at that time, and such was the case. And other than retail and being around cash registers that I don't know the buttons of, mechanic places are also other places where I feel a little bit more anxiety than other places, because I'm just not a car person, don't have that kind of mind to me. So normally when I go to these mechanics and that kind of environment, there's just this natural anxiety. But a couple years ago, I met this one mechanic who I just naturally felt this, friendship. It was just a natural friendship. I felt drawn to be more open in his presence and his setting. And so when I went to him this time, first I only thought it was an oil change, so I was relaxed and knew what was ahead of me. But then when I came back and found out the bigger list, I immediately noticed how relaxed and free of anxiety I felt, because I was coming to him not to get my car fixed, but I was actually genuinely happy to see him and see how he was doing, because I only see him a couple times a year at most, and I just was always curious of why I feel this friendship with him. And so he ran down the list, and I was, first miracle was just feeling that relaxation, and then afterwards I noticed that I really hadn't introduced or welcomed properly. When I first went there, it was more of a quick exchange. I didn't really ask him how he was feeling and how he was doing. So I just paused for a moment and remembered of the friendship I was feeling with him, and asked him, how are you doing? And I looked at him with that friendship, and he said, good. And he took a pause and maybe noticed that I was giving a little bit more energy than initially. He said, come into the shop, which is another second miracle, because, mechanics, they really don't let you into their working area. But he came in and directed me to the shop and showed me around a little bit, and then he said, you know what, we've just got this 12-pack of donuts for breakfast that we just got, and it's here. Why don't you take a donut? I said, oh, no, sure, I'm not gonna deny that. So I took a donut, and he said, just one? No, take two. So I took a second one, and we just chatted for a little bit, for 5 minutes or so, and then I went on my way. But I was just so struck at how, because normally in this situation, in past, I came with anxiety. I didn't come with thinking that this was an opportunity that Divine Mother was giving me to experience a day-to-day something with elevated consciousness. And I don't know if it was consciously or just because it was him, but I guess you could say it was, that I went in there with an open heart, with this feeling of friendship and wanting to give myself of him. It was the first time in a long time that I had a big expense that I was willingly wanting to give just to support him and his business. And it just felt to me that every single one of our experiences that we have, when we view it as a possibility to treat that situation, if it's with people, to use it as a way to become friends with that person or those people, use that situation to give ourselves fully to it so that Divine Mother can really express that circuit of gratitude that we were reading in that affirmation. That's the potential that every single one of us has, is when we give more of ourselves, give more of our hearts to life, to Divine Mother, then she just wants us to be able to receive everything that she has to give us. And when we do that, we really step into the soul, the person that we were truly meant to be at this time. So God bless you all, and may we all continue to open ourselves, give ourselves to life and Divine Mother as much as we can.
Good morning, everyone. It's a joy to be here with you all. Interestingly, I was also going to tell a story about cars and mechanics. So I think we know where our gratitude is being tested, but I think I'll spare you all. Just leave it with the mechanic had said when I came into the shop, he'd never seen someone so happy to spend $1,000 on a new set of tires. But I'll spare you the rest of the details. When I was thinking about this topic this morning, I did what any good English teacher would do, and I looked up the definition of gratitude. But rather than simply looking at what gratitude means, I started to Google, how do we show gratitude? How do we experience gratitude? And I found, similarly to the story that Navashen started with, Swami's story about Ananda Moima, it was amazing how across cultures and experiences and circumstances, gratitude was shown so differently. And every culture had their own way of interacting with this term, with this emotion. Yet at the root of it, of course, as we can assume, there was the core reality that when we're experiencing gratitude, what we're doing is we're awakening the feelings of the heart and we're expanding them outward. This is a really beautiful concept. But Swami, and we heard it a little bit in the talk that we played this morning before meditation, he challenges us to take that one step further. And beginning with this idea, he says the inclination of the devotee or of the yogi is to take that which we are grateful for and offer it up to God. Divine Mother, thank you for the health of my children and my loved ones. Guruji, thank you for the gift of this apartment in this beautiful spiritual community in which I live. And of course, there's nothing wrong with this, but what Swamiji talks about is how this starts a small ripple of feeling, and inherent in the act of gratitude that is being expanded outward, the heart's feeling is still there. Thank you for this. Thank you for that. And just as he says to us in the talk, the reality is that when we can still the heart's desires, and when we can be centered in our spine and know that Divine Mother is present in every aspect of our lives and in everything that we're doing, whether it be positive or negative, whether it be blessings or obstacles, when we're living in that state of complete openness with our heart ready to receive, that is the truest state of gratitude. It's a state of love, of pure love. And it's an exchange where we're asking not what can I receive, but what can I give? Thank you, Divine Mother, for your love. Thank you for your presence in my life. And when we awaken to that, we're living in the truest potential of our own being. One of the videos that I came across while I was researching or Googling this term was a video that was done by a time-lapse photographer named Louis Schwarzenberg. And he has spent the last few decades practicing various forms of time-lapse photography. And the current project that he was working on, this is a TED Talk that I had come across, the current project he was working on was called Gratitude in Nature. And he had set various images of time-lapse photography, mostly of flowers blooming and opening up to the light, but also of clouds and of animals, and you can see the butterflies emerging from their cocoon, and you can watch the hummingbirds dancing with one another as they're drinking the nectar from the various flowers. And it's such a magical moment because what you feel is pure gratitude. And the truth is, this is what Swamiji is asking of us. And the metaphor of the flowers is the perfect metaphor to use here, because what does a flower do? A flower has no desire, it has no yearnings, there are no ripplings of its heart that are intertwined with the ego. It simply seeks the light, and as it pushes towards the light, it reaches the purest expression of its true being. And as these flowers open up, it's mesmerizing. I started out just watching one video and eventually spent half an hour just watching more and more of these images of flowers just bursting to life. And the emotion that you feel is pure, wordless gratitude. And this is what Swamiji challenges from us. Of course, it's not a bad thing to say, Divine Mother, thank you for all of the things that I have in my life. But when we're ultimately practicing gratitude in its purest form, what we're saying is, Divine Mother, thank you for your presence in my life. Divine Mother, I love you. And there is no separation. It's pure centeredness in the heart and in the ego. And so I leave you with that and challenge you all to think about that and to be a flower just bursting towards the light. Because when we can still the heart and we can look to the light and open ourselves with that kind of gratitude, with pure devotion and love, that is egoless, that has no desires and no ripples of feeling in it, then we too, just like these flowers, will open up to that purest expression of ourselves. And this is the gratitude that we are being asked to practice as devotees and as yogis on this path. So, happy Thanksgiving.
Om Bhurbhuvah Swaha Om Tatsaviturvaraniyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodhayatom Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sagandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mrityormukshiyamamritat Swaha